Maybe. What's up? Howdy, howdy, ho. Howdy, ho. Are you feeling mad?
Slightly dismissed, resist. Raise your fist and pump like this. Promises all the time. Don't cross the line, and you know it's mine. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Lefty, let's go. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Lefty, let's go.
Happy Thursday. Huh. Hello, Seth. Hello, Paco.
You do that.
Hello,
better.
Medman.
You do that better.
Medman got your account back. I guess he got kicked off Facebook for a while.
No, he's got it back.
Happens to the best of us. I'm very careful on Facebook now.
Hi, Latte.
Hello. Happy Thursday. Welcome to our smoke sesh.
2 weeks from Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
Not getting quite as much. I may think it's still a little out of people's range for taking part in our Thanksgiving at the State House giveaway of clothes and food and personal hygiene products, all the stuff we're gathering. I look forward to that.
Yeah, we're going to have a bunch of personal hygiene products for men and women.
Yeah, bags of basically it'd be like, it'd be like the mainstays are toothbrushes, toothpaste, soap, shampoo, body wash, hygiene items. And then that just leaves a little more money for something else, I guess.
Someone reported his page. Yeah. Yeah, well, they report for jokes, anything off color, anything that's bullyish. Like, I've been bullied, and I got time in jail for talking about myself being bullied. Like, crazy stuff. Like, Facebook sucks.
Yes.
But it's for activism. It's good. That's why I'm very careful because I want to keep it for activism.
Well, that's the only reason.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only reason. Even though we're shadow banned on most platforms and we're slow played on others,
Yeah.
yeah, shadow banning is a thing. It really is, and especially if you're a weed advocate, that's you're on a certain algorithm. On TikTok, I have 29,000 followers, but only like 700 people get to see our stuff consistently.
Really?
It's weird. Yeah. There she is. There's Debbie. Hey, what's up?
Hello, how are you guys?
We're doing good.
Doing good, thank you.
Getting started, trying to find the path into it, We're
I love the conversation you were having about banning and shadow banning and stuff. Everybody that's in this industry has that problem.
yeah. Well, I'm sure you can shed some light onto it. We don't generally jump right into it. Hi, tell us a little bit. We're not that kind of podcast. And it seems fair that we need to tell you a little bit about ourselves so you know who you're talking to as well. You're not flying quite so blind. So, but again, we don't need to, jump right into it. It's we don't necessarily whine. We don't do like the weave. We don't start conversations all over and bring them back together like an excellent. Oh my God.
I just love that you're having this conversation because I don't think we have it enough.
Yeah, well, and we what I like about Lefty, and I have no idea how he feels about it towards me, but we are we're a little bit like that relationship that Colin and Michael Che have on Saturday Night Live on the Weekend News Update. They're friends that they certainly don't nod their head at each other all the time, and that's not like I put the banana peel in front of Lefty so he'll slip on it, but sometimes I have a little fun. It's more like it just lightens things up. But okay, rather than Lefty try to say, hi, let me tell you about me or me, I'll tell you about Lefty is because it's easier than him saying something about himself.
I'm the guy who gets shadow banned.
Yeah, right. Well, what I like best about Lefty is he has self-awareness and always is looking for more, so that he reacts differently to if somebody says, boy, you can be such an ass. He would go, why would you say that? Can you give me a specific example? Because I tell you, I might not argue with you, and it's disarming.
I agree with you, probably.
Yeah, you may, but you do have the ability to evolve quickly, as opposed to waiting to see how everybody else is going on something. And I like that. And we've known each other for a while. And he was more like a Howard Stern shock jock wannabe, sort of. Not wannabe, he just naturally is like that. But
we're at the State House. We're at the State House protesting, and as we're protesting, our podcast became like a podcast, and that's where it started, really. And yeah, we started doing shocking things. We started going to council meetings with an 8-foot guitar playing bong, which is Mikey right here, Mikey V. He's right here. Lefty's the best. Thank you, Mikey. I love you too. That's Bong Holio. And so we've gone around to council meetings to try to get the towns that banned medical cannabis. Can you believe there's towns that ban medical cannabis? They sell fentanyl and booze and tobacco, but medical cannabis? No, not in my town. So we would go to these towns and with patients that were suffering from cancer and MS, and we would go pour our hearts out to these towns, and they would ignore us. They would ignore our friend Jeff, who had stage 4 cancer, and he would go to these council meetings, and they would ignore him.
Well, ignoring not in the traditional sense of the word, because you and Mike and company are impossible to ignore. That's exactly why you will do what you do. But to me, it works because if that's the way into a conversation that's not being had, okay. And if somebody wants to take issue with something I'm saying, then at least we're talking about it. And that's often the hardest part, starting a discussion on something where if you don't have a way of forcing that door open, it's not going to happen, not without money, influence, power, or a trade-off you can make with somebody. And we don't have tentacles in that.
No, so we just do activism, and I go around trying to get wheelchair accessibility around New Jersey because we have a lot of steps, and wheelchairs can't get up these steps, and the towns don't seem to care about that either. There's even cannabis dispensaries in New Jersey without wheelchair access, and you would think this industry was built on the backs of sick, dying, and disabled people, and they would have wheelchair access at every dispensary. But no, the CRC has not put in any kind of regulations for wheelchair access for dispensaries. It's disgusting how they treat disabled vets and cancer patients, and it's horrible. New Jersey's a mess. It really is. So that's why we're fighting over here. We're at the State House every month, fighting. We shouldn't be at the State House. Weed should be legal, but me and Jim and a few others are still at the State House protesting for legal cannabis in New Jersey because it's not free. If a cancer patient goes to jail for 5 years for growing one plant, well, that's not legal. How's that legal?
We're educating as we protest. It's not megaphones and having oratory towards the legislature, which can see us out their window or anything like that. We like to have information that people need, like how did we get here? Why don't we have home grow? It's all about home grow right now.
If this was a Trenton podcast, we'd have you on the Trenton podcast, and we'd be talking to you from Trenton instead of here at the Mad Hatter dispensary. But so what is your story, Debbie? How did you get involved in this industry? And I got fun questions for you later, but let's get serious for a while and talk about why we're really here to help sick people and people that are suffering.
I gotta fess up that I always do a background check on people coming on here because especially if it's somebody Sue knows, it always goes right down the middle. I mean, in a good way. I don't mean like we don't deviate.
We're on the same page here. I think we have a lot of overlap.
Yeah, and it's going to always go well, but I like to at least have that little head start. And so I know you got an interesting story. And from my point of view, where you started out, where you needed virtually 24-hour a day help, that's kind of a good starting point, it seems to me. If I'd like to have a better understanding, because that actually, to me, sets the tone for what else you're going to say, the awakening, where you really got it and you realized you could do something about it for yourself. And then if you could do it for yourself, you could make sure others had that pathway through your experience. So I think it's important to know the severity, where it started out, what you needed to mitigate.
Thank you for that. It is very difficult to understand how the medical system cannot be taking care of someone. So it was 2015, and I was in a wheelchair, unable to walk, needed a 24-hour caregiver, in the middle of the opioid crisis. And I was developing a severe lung infection, which we did not know, something going on with my lungs. We didn't know what it was. And I was pretty much abandoned by my medical staff because of the opioid crisis. And I was at 240 milligrams a day of OxyContin. Just let that set in a minute. 240 milligrams of prescribed OxyContin. Now I think about that, that's insane. But at the time, that's what they were offering me. This is what they were telling me I needed. And I was still at a pain level of 10. And so I felt like I was left on the curb with no one to support me. I have a medical background, and I worked in many hospital labs and oncology labs. And so I took an oath to take care of people and to help them feel better and understand what's happening. And I was just really devastated. And then I was fighting to have access to OxyContin. You don't just stop it. especially when you're in the serious situation that I was, and nobody really seemed to care that my health was declining and what was happening. And I soon found myself laying in a hospital bed fighting for my life because they cut my opiates so fast. And so whenever I came back to my senses and could think for myself, I made a commitment that I would do everything in my power to make sure no one ever finds himself in that situation. And started learning about cannabis, something that I had quite a bit of knowledge on prior to this from working in oncology in the 70s. I worked with two doctors that really taught me a lot about what we called marijuana back then. And we were fighting to get access for our patients to at least use it for sleep and pain. Now, if we didn't have the data that we have now today. But of course, MD Anderson would not approve that. So we had patients that took it illegally, but we couldn't really advise them on anything. And so thinking about going and fighting for that back at that time and causing a big uprising, there just wasn't anything we could do. And so I walked away from it. And then when I developed complex regional pain syndrome, I knew that it could probably help with my pain, but it wasn't legal at the time when I developed that. And so I just kind of left it alone and didn't ever entertain it until 2015.
Did you have a hard time using cannabis in the hospital?
Oh, I didn't have access. I didn't even know how at that time. This is the thing. I was just left to fend for myself and have to figure this out. So I didn't know how. So it took me taking all kinds of training, going to dispensaries, talking to people. But the thing people need to understand when you have serious health issues like that, and you're walking into a dispensary and talking to somebody that's 23 that doesn't know you, doesn't know your health history, doesn't know your pharmaceutical history. It's really hard. And so that's why I've armed myself with as much education as I can get my hands on.
How did you do that? Where did you start at that point to look for the answers, educationally speaking?
Well, you have to realize I was so sick, had a caregiver, everybody was taking care of me. So I was just sitting, laying in my chair in my bed with a computer on my lap trying to figure this out. And I learned about the sacred plant, which was a good educational process with John Malakan. And then I learned about Green Flower Media. And that was when Green Flower Media was doing their big conferences in Vegas, and they would stream them live. And they had individuals that would come on and talk about cannabis and how it helped with your health. And so I started cannabis to maintain my pain, and then started to realize about a year after that, once I figured it out, that it was actually doing something for my lungs, which is something none of us ever expected.
Something good.
Something good, right?
Okay.
I no longer need oxygen 24 hours a day like I used to.
Inhaling it, were edibles involved, or were you inhaling, or both?
I started out with a little bit of everything except for smoking.
Yeah.
Because the guy in the dispensary says, "Oh, well, try this, try this, try this." Of course, they don't know what I need. So through my study, I realized that I needed to do flower vaping. So, because I wasn't making any improvement. Now, let's just back up a minute. Talking about your pain and controlling that is one thing.
Yeah.
Talking about your lungs and breathing is a totally different subject. So for pain, I actually did use a lot of edibles, drinks of that nature, but mostly CBD, THC combinations. They didn't even have CBG, CBN, anything like that when I started. And then when I realized it was doing something for my lungs, I started exploring what are other options. Well, I did that before that. I started learning about flower vapes, and I landed on a herbalizer, which was made by two NASA astronauts. And it's a little countertop vape and you can adjust the temperature. So I started really diving into terpenes and understanding them. And then when I started vaping, I started finding improvement with my lungs. I have COPD and MAC lung disease. And with the MAC lung disease, I had nodules in my lungs. And that's something that normally doesn't get fixed and doesn't go away. And I was given 5 years. And that was almost 9 years ago now. And all the nodules are gone. I do have some scarring, but they're gone. And I was denied a lung transplant due to being on opiates at the time. At the time, I was devastated because I only used 20% of my lungs. But when I learned how to use cannabis and I've seen the improvement that I've seen, I'm thankful that I was denied that lung transplant.
Yeah, that's amazing. Denied a lung transplant. It was a fortuitous thing for you because the knowledge hadn't caught up. And it's counterintuitive to people when you think of smoking and inhalation to your lungs as that's what causes problems, doesn't fix them. And I can see where that's counterintuitive to a lot of people in the medical field. But there was a woman in New Jersey who was actually a former Miss New Jersey who had why am I missing it? She had
Asthma.
asthma. Thank you. I have a better 2/3 keeps me in looking bad. Yeah, but and that's where I heard the counterintuitive nature of it for her. But it really opened up her bronchial airways or whatever. And but to be denied a lung transplant and then to not need the lung transplant after being denied, I'm not sure I've ever heard that before.
Well, I think medically I would still qualify for a lung transplant just because I use 20% of my lungs. That hasn't been proved.
Yeah.
But the fact that I can breathe so much better, it's like somebody took the elephant and lifted it off my chest because my airways have improved. They have opened. They have given me the ability to function in a way that I couldn't before.
And
when I realized that I could do this is when I would get up in the mornings and not take my breathing medication, which I lived on. I mean, that was what I needed. And then I would forget them. And then I would get really mad at myself by the end of the day. Oh, I forgot to take my breathing meds. And after a while, I kind of stopped and told myself, there's something going on. Your body's talking to you. You need to listen to it. It's telling you something. You don't need this. So since then, I have eliminated 25 pharmaceuticals.
Wow. How long of a time period did that take to eliminate that much? Was it like a few years?
That took a lot of years. Trying to get off 240 milligrams of OxyContin in the middle of serious health issues is not easy. And I didn't have anybody to guide me or help me. So I had to figure this out myself. And I had worked in quite a few detox clinics through the hospital. So I knew what the detox situation was going to be like. But after the first one that it landed me in the hospital, they kept trying to cut me back so fast. And I said, you're not going to do this to me. You're killing me. And so I really did fight back a little bit. I had to beg a doctor to help me in this whole process. And no one should ever have to beg a doctor to help them.
Ever.
I wasn't asking for something that is outrageous. I wasn't doing something that is illegal. You prescribed this medication to me for decades. And we ask constantly, what is the harm of me being on this high a dose of this medication? And all they would tell me is that only thing I had to worry about was constipation. Now, I'll tell you now, that's not true. There's a whole lot more that goes along with that, and there's been a lot of ramifications for it. But understanding that a doctor can just deny you, and then you have to beg them to help you, someone, and then they're moving you through a process that's so fast that you have to say, stop, you're killing me. That's a really tough, process for anyone to go through.
What state are you in? I that's the one thing that's missing from. I don't know where you are, whether now or where you talking about. What state were you in at that time?
Phoenix, Arizona, and that's where I am still today.
Okay. Because in New Jersey, I guess 4 or 5 years ago, they passed that really strict, opiate revisions probably under federal guidelines, and it was like, that you'd get your 5 days worth, and then you'd really have to have. And I understand that principle, but that also included everybody that was already on a regimen. And see, Lefty understands dosages like you're talking about from his own personal uh, reasons for using it. And I noticed when you said 250 milligrams, was it? Yeah, Lefty had.
240.
Yeah. He had sort of a like, yeah, we're in the same club look, like.
It took me 4 times to get off the opiates. I was on OxyContin, Roxicodone, Valium, Lyrica, Neurontin. They wanted me on antidepressants. They wanted me on everything. So I got on the fast acting opiates, the Roxicodone. They put me on 90 milligrams of Roxicodone every 3 hours.
Oh.
Every 3 hours. And that was my dose I had to come down off. So I had to titrate from 90 to 45 to 30 to 15 and I hit a wall around like 4 milligrams. I hit the wall. So I went cold turkey.
Yep.
And it was rough. It was 3 days of hell. I have a horrible spine issues. So I was in horrible pain plus the withdrawals. So it took me 4 times to actually do it. And knowing what I know now, I would have used more edibles. I would have used tinctures, suppositories. I had a 2-level cervical fusion without any opiates. After I got off opiates, I had a 2-level cervical, and I had the opiates next to my bed if I needed them, but I didn't need them because I had so much cannabis in me from tinctures and oils and suppositories. I took 0 opiates for a 2-level cervical fusion. So, it is possible. I was surprised.
It's very possible, and I find it interesting that when I was cutting off of my OxyContin, I had a doctor tell me there's no way you'll be able to cut completely off at the end by yourself. You're going to need someone to be there to hold your hand and pay us X amount of dollars, and we'll do it. Yeah. And it's like, well, you've always told me that I can't be addicted to this, that it's just a dependency. Your body just gets dependent upon it. This is the story they used to tell me. They're totally wrong. Your body, you become addicted to it because your body craves it. It wants it. It's just like cigarettes, and it screams at you. But when you get to that final stage, no matter what it is the most intense part of cutting down. Because that's the last little bit that your body had seen, and now it's going to scream really loud and clear to you. And I really had trouble with my body temperature dysregulating. I had extreme GI issues when I finally got off, and it's taken me, I guess I'm still not completely regulated with my temperature still, but I was on those doses for so long. You've got to stop and think about what were they doing over all those years.
How long? How many years?
Over 3 decades.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Wow, indeed. So that all indicates to me a very strong amount of reason you would have to not just take care of yourself and sit back and understand it. And, if you came across somebody, most of the people we talk to or have on the show, even everybody just became a lifer. It's like, if there's somebody you can help and you don't, you're almost complicit in their problem at that point. But everybody deserves a life of their own too, so you have to learn how to mix it. But what was your first inkling that after all the effort you needed to put into yourself to get this done, when it started becoming less effort, you already had the chops for work and you knew how to be have tenacity. that it took to get from point A to point B. And you wanted then, like a lot of people I know, had to impart that on others. I mean, if somebody could have told you most of what you know now, they would have given you a shortcut that you had more than a couple times fend for yourself, because there just wasn't anybody jumping up to help. And I can see that sort of catapulting you a little bit in the direction you took. But what was your first solid? I mean, it wasn't the newsletter right off, was it? I mean,
no, I started Effective Cannabis to do research. I wanted to research with patients. I actually wanted, and I still live in this realm.
when was the beginning of Effective Cannabis?
2016,
Okay.
August 2016, it
Yeah.
became an idea. I started growing it, making it, building it, whatever. You got to realize I hadn't worked in over 3 decades, so I had to learn a whole lot of stuff.
Oh, I'll bet you did. Yeah, new stuff too. You know, what's this? What's that?
Yeah. All I did for 3 decades was stay sick and do doctor's office appointments, hospitals, and in and out fighting for my life. And then I became caregiver for 2 moms. So, you know, it was just in the middle of all that, thinking I could do any kind of work. There was no way possible. And I was disabled. I was classified disabled and couldn't work. So I had to learn how to build a website, how to do all those things. And so it took a while. It took a while, but probably about a year after starting that and thinking that, it came to life. And so I developed and had a system built that you could join in and actually document the improvements that you're making, have people to talk to understand what tweaks you could make and stuff like that. I had paint in the grass, and then we had the full-blown study so that we could start capturing and learning what medical conditions were improving, how they were improving, by what cannabinoids, how much dosage and stuff like that, because I began to realize chronic pain, regardless of what type of pain it is, there are some similarities of how cannabis works for you, and we need to understand that. Just saying it helps you is not enough. We need to understand why it's helping you. And then that list just started growing and trying to understand that. The other thing that I've learned, I was born with a medical condition called thalassemia minor, which is hereditary. And I have been anemic my whole life. I started using cannabis, and I no longer report as being anemic anymore. Now, common sense tells me it has to do with cannabis and the ECS. Because why did that just change at this age of my life? Doesn't make sense. There's nobody that happens to. You go back and look at it. So I really got a keen interest for wanting to study people that had the same medical conditions that I had and understand what they were doing and how they were doing it. And finding someone that has thalassemia minor to work with that will use cannabis is really hard because it's a very rare disease. So it just has, you know, continued to grow, that we need to understand specific medical conditions and how they're being improved. Because if you looked at Arizona, and when we had the medical program, 99% of the people were registered for chronic pain. There was no notification that somebody was using a fibromyalgia, COPD. You can name the list. You know, it was just chronic pain. And it's like, that's not helpful. That does not assist us in understanding this plant, because I think everybody should have the best quality of life possible. And we have the ability to provide them with information that could provide them with that. I'll take this life I have right now over 3 decades that I lived laying in a bed, not able to take care of myself or be a part of my family's life in reality. So, you know, and I can tell you, my life would have been very different if I had the knowledge at the beginning of all this than what it has been. And I would probably be in a very different medical state now.
Yeah.
And that's what drives me, to make sure that people have this information.
Yeah, if they'd only known sooner for so many people. Yeah.
Well, why should we have to do it the hard way?
Well, I like that it's gotten easier in the last decade with enough people finally more free to not worry about putting a target on their back just to explore these possibilities. And that was going on 3 decades and 2 decades ago. So it's just it kind of rings true for me about the should have known sooner. Um, my whole reason I delved into all this was out of I was married to a woman with multiple sclerosis, and it was chronic progressive, primary progressive. So it wasn't like the remissions and relapses, and it was just pretty much a downhill, depending on how steep. But it never even held still. You just sort of notice things shutting off and getting harder. And we got married. She had multiple sclerosis. It was 1984, and it just got into a wheelchair. But it looked like she didn't belong in the wheelchair. It was just better getting around that way. So not knowing cost almost 7 years of it was just that simple, and it was literally what we were looking for was right under my nose. I would be smoking a joint going, is this something that would help her? But she didn't. She's over there, not a social consumer. And for 7 years to be that close and yet that far away, it was because nobody told us. So when it became clear, and it became clear because it kept her from being discharged from a rehab because she had too much spasticity they couldn't control. And this was at the same time we were just finding out. So I hooked her up with some brownies. The staff said, "Oh my God, this spasticity is like way better." And they couldn't tell me what happened. What'd you do? We didn't do anything. So I realized those who needed to know didn't know. If they did know, they could have told Cheryl. I wouldn't have needed to. Right. And then I at the time, it was 1990, and there was a target on people's back for even talking openly at times. So I told her, I said, we can do this loud or we can do it quiet. And she, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm going to take care of you. We're exploring this. I'm going to explode on this because it's the only thing that worked. And there was a lot going on then where you really needed hope. And without this, there would have been nothing else left to try. We were pretty diligent on everything else. So, basically what she says is, don't you wish we'd known sooner? I said, well, yeah. And then as near as I can remember, the closest paraphrase I'll get is she said that we shouldn't want somebody to have done something for us that we aren't willing to do for somebody else. There's no straight through the center to a truth than that. It made so much sense to me. It's like a revelation. And I said, yeah. So, that was like 33 years ago. It doesn't go away, but I guess you don't expect it to either. So when, I'm hearing you realize what a shortcut this could have been for you. And, I know full well you kind of got drafted into this too. It wasn't like a normal thought process. It's you're a good person, wants other people to have benefits that they shouldn't have to try to seek out themselves. And basically, there's just a lot of us. And but wow, the level you had to come from to get to where you are with really not proper help. Not advice, not it's that's really must have been tough.
Well, yeah, I can sit here now and tell you it was very tough. I don't have a problem doing that. It was not an easy road, but I'm thankful now that I got to go that road, if that's the road I had to go, because it gives me the ability to actually show. I open my medical records up to anyone. Mm-hmm. Because our medical records show the proof of what's happening. They can say we don't have enough research. They're wrong. We do. There is very little information about using cannabis, especially inhaled cannabis, for your lungs. And I always get frustrated when someone says you should not inhale cannabis into your lungs if you have a lung condition. I have asthma, COPD, and MAC lung disease. And I will argue with you all day about that. I wish I'd have had access to cannabis when I was a kid and I had asthma, because it probably would have made a huge difference in my activities and the ability of things that I could have done. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that conversation when we're talking about adolescence, but I can tell you we don't question when we give adolescents radiation and chemotherapy. Working in oncology and seeing what those pharmaceuticals can do to kids, and we didn't realize until like they were 21 what was really the impact on those kids. There is an impact, and so if we can give kids a better quality of life, whether it be ADHD, whether it be asthma, whether it be cancer, seizures, I can name off a huge list. I would choose to do that for my child and give them a better quality of life.
If you had
the life that a lot of these kids live is not quality.
But that choice should certainly be yours and yours alone in a situation like that. Unfortunately, legally, of course, we know it's not, and that varies state to state.
Right.
So yeah, there's just, for all the just say no, what about the children years, after all the what about the children, the marijuana, but what about the children? Okay, now the children get sick. Where's the what about the children when they get sick? It's sort of like, but they're children. We don't know if we're comfortable with that. And you a lot of times, a lot of times, you only got one chance to get it right. And delays can mean so many things, and none of them are good. And and I keep reminding people, it affects whole families. This isn't just about patients; it's how it affects whole families. So if you would, before it gets by, I need to know about your newsletter, because that seems to be what pops up when I did my quick little check on you.
The Effective Cannabis newsletter is a collaborative venture. We're building a coalition of certified medical cannabis educators, coaches, medical professionals, and advocates. Because to educate the world about cannabis and what it's capable of doing for you, it's a free subscription. Just to subscribe to it, it gets delivered to your inbox every month. I have a team of 5 editors that edit and vet it, every single piece of content that comes through, to make sure it's correct, accurate, the most up-to-date research, so that we're giving good quality information to the public. We add personal stories, so we actually do the medical research stuff, write the content, but we also do testimonials. We created this really cool blog process where you answer 9 questions about your health history, and we turned it into a testimonial. And so then we can back up, somebody says this is what's possible for ADHD, and then we have a patient that's using cannabis for ADHD, and we can show where they have improved, how they used it, what cannabinoids, what dosing. We don't talk about specific strains or anything. We just stick to the facts and educate. We're reaching 25 countries now, and we're looking to build, like I said, a coalition, because there's so many people that are working in this space. It's amazing to me how many new people I meet every week that I don't know anything about, and I've been working in this space for almost 9 years. Now, granted, I'm homebound because of my health, and I don't have an immune system. My immune system is not healthy, but I still am on the internet searching and looking for people all the time. And I learned that I can't do this alone. There's 8 billion people on this planet, and I can't be the sole provider of education for all those 8 billion people. And I can't be the expert in everything. We're just all learning this at the same time. And you have a system that you were born with that most people don't even know about or recognize. We need a coalition of people working with the same values, the same mission to educate this. And that's how the newsletter came about.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's a very salient point there. I mean, the gift that the endocannabinoid system discovery, or whenever that was, what was that mid 90s, I guess, somewhere around that, you know?
It was like 1988, I do believe.
Is what that, yeah. It's
The year I was born.
I didn't almost believe that when I first heard it, and it was nowhere near 1988. If I had to guess when I first heard it, it wasn't until about 2010 or something. I mean, embarrassingly late. It's almost hard to say, but you know, the way, the first phraseology that drew my attention is you know, we're hardwired for cannabis, hardwired. You know what I mean? So you mean whoever one believes is their creator or responsible for their body, if any, you know, that was part of the plan, is what we're finding out. And I thought, when I found out then, it would blow it out of the water. But the fact that 14% of medical schools taught that then, when I found out, and about 14% teach it now after all this time, that blows me away. It's not even that well known.
Like we had that conversation last time. Remember, they say that they don't admit to it at most of these schools because they're federally funded, right, so they can't admit that they're teaching cannabis stuff because they will lose funding. Remember, that's why.
That's also then, I guess, one of those reasons why I'm okay with Schedule 3 coming up, as opposed to waiting till it goes all the way to descheduling and stay Schedule 1. Get out of Schedule 1. That's going to knock a lot of that federal fear and influence out of it, all the way down to Medicaid. You know, where, well, Medicaid is subsidized federally, so certainly Medicaid won't pay for it. And if you can't grow it and Medicaid can't pay for it and insurance isn't required to pay for it, wow, one of the more expensive medicines. And, you know, from my late wife, Cheryl, having taken dronabinol, Marinol for, actually, she didn't take it as much as the state would pay for it through a pharmaceutical for age and disabled program. And there were ways to trade that for buds. So the state wouldn't provide it, of course, but they provided the THC, which some people like the sedative effect, or it wasn't good for Cheryl, and I didn't mind doing that at all. At first I felt bad about like circumventing and manipulating and scamming to do, but I thought, no, this is something that the state should pay for if it's going to pay for something like it's about $25,000 a year for the Marinol, which is a lot of money for like one medicine that theoretically people could grow. So, there's a lot needs to be done in that area, but I myself am trying to find various levels that I can educate myself at to the ECS, because it's not hard to be the smartest person in the room when you talk about an endocannabinoid system, because so few people really do know. A lot of people we associate with, we know, we might be prone to say, oh, I know lots of people. Of course we would, but there really aren't. And half of them don't believe it. They just don't want to believe it when they're hearing it for the first time from somebody like me. And I don't know. I just wish there was a way to rub it in the proper faces to sort of get past that, or at least be ready to get past it when the federal government doesn't have that influence over the education of people who need to know about it. Oh, that's so frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, there was a study that just came out. I think I just saw that doctors are more willing to talk about cannabis, but very few of them know anything about the ECS. And so it's like they need to understand the ECS. So, we would love to partner with doctors, with coaches and educators and health professionals, working with us to say, you have a partner here in hand, because I know it's what I've learned in 8 years, almost 9 years. I'm doing this all day long to learn everything that I know. I'm not just doing this once in a while. If you're a doctor and understand their workforce that they have and the amount of work they have on them, they don't have all day to sit and read this and learn about it. Excuse me just a second. In fact, I was just also listening to something that most research papers, studies, and that come out, the only people that read them are the people that put them out, because that nobody has time to read them. So it's like, first off, we need access to all of them. But, it's just understanding that you don't have to do this alone. There's a force of people out here that have the knowledge that can assist you and make you better at what you do in your job and helping patients to feel better.
Yeah. And what you're able to do and are doing is being that conduit to get the air traffic. Okay. When Peter Grinspoon, being on the podcast, was explaining all this, I believe it was him that referred to it as sort of like it was either him or it could have been Mike. The air traffic control system, like for all the other, for the planes and things, the one that kind of regulates it. I'm looking for a really good way to explain it to somebody that's never heard it, and I'm almost surprised that if I looked up, I wonder the best way to explain the endocannabinoid system and see what people say. But, the very first understanding a person is going to have, there's probably is a really good shortcut, a good, because people don't know about certain neuropathic systems and things. So, what is that analogy? And I imagine the air traffic control, picture that. That's who's up in the tower, the endocannabinoid system.
Oh, definitely.
It seems to be a jump off point, but it just seems, I can't believe how many people still don't know. More people don't know than do. I mean, if you just ask people the name, they might not even know it by the name, but you describe the system, and that we're hardwired for cannabis.
Oh, it's definitely we are. And I think that if we really look at people's improvements that they've made in their health, we would figure that out and understand that. I can't wait till the day that we have a test that you can run and tell me how dysregulated or how out of balance my system is and what I need to apply to it. I believe all that is possible. Are we anywhere close to that? No. We've got to have it takes a lot of money to create that kind of stuff and do that kind of study, but I do believe that's possible. But I think just if we take and look at and evaluate what other individuals are doing with specific medical conditions and compare them, we can start to see some of the similarities and then start looking at what are the differences and how do we address those, because no one system's the same. I kind of equate it to being like a car, and it has a central nervous system, that little red light that goes off in your car. Beep, 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 you're low on water. Beep, 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 you're low on transmission fluid, whatever it may be. That system is going off in your head and telling you that there's something wrong, but we're not listening. So most people don't listen when your body starts telling you something there's wrong. This is one of the things I talked about in my TED Talk that I gave at Bergen County to kids under 18, believe it or not. And letting them understand that they need to partner with their own health. They need to be the number one guide. And then they need to partner with a medical professional. Don't just turn it over to them, because it's like you're turning your life over to someone else to manage and maintain for you. So you need to do that yourself, but you need to learn to listen. Your body speaks to you on a daily basis. And if you just sit down and let yourself listen to what your body's saying, then you can evaluate what's going on.
I agree. You know, it's nice, and sometimes I almost start smiling at the wrong time, and I don't mean to do that, but the fact that there is so much still to be learned, and that there's still like brakes on and anchors from keeping that fluid flow. You know, we haven't really even gotten there yet, but I spent from 1990 through 1999, 90% of everything I had to do was deal with, yes, it is medicine. I mean, it was like, there's no test that prove it is, and on and on. I mean, from the government to health organizations on down. And it was when the Institute of Medicine came out with their cannabis assessing the science base. Actually, that was marijuana assessing the science base. Cheryl and I went to Washington for the announcement of here's the findings, and we already had a look and knew that it was the best thing that had ever happened until then. It very definitively made the case for this needs to be easier to study. That's the most important thing. So from it being impossible to all that we know now, and it's like Lester Grinspoon would say, is the more I learned, the more I peeled back the onion, the more there was to dive into. You know, it just never seemed to settle down. But what you're doing, especially facilitating the flow of that information, and outward to other countries.
But yeah, it doesn't matter where you live.
That's the real important part. It's almost like I was saying, like being the air traffic control system for let's get this information out. Where do we need more, and who can help, and how do we get there? Yeah, I mean.
Well, and I think that I think about it this way. If we didn't learn we had a cardiovascular system until the 1988, let's just think about that for a minute. And heart disease is the #1 killer in the world. And we had only been doing it since then, and we were not allowing anyone to educate on it. Where would we be?
Yeah, well, that's been the fight, being allowed to be educated. I mean, especially prevalent in the VA, the fact that, veterans who are the ones that we'd like to put in the front of the line for things that we can, for the VA to not be allowed to educate veterans that come to them because they're not allowed to.
Right.
And that has been changing, and I don't know how changed it is now. But, this was just being dealt with for the first time about 6-7 years ago, where it started to really be, that has to change right there for sure. And I don't know, a state like New Jersey, where it's the one medicine that's not insurable, it's that you got to pay out of pocket. The one thing that could be so much cheaper, and the way that we do allow it to happen keeps that price out of people's price range. The method that we allow people to do it if they don't take it upon themselves. So.
Yeah, we see a huge population that cannot afford cannabis as medicine. And we're talking about some serious health issues. And they have a terrible quality of life. And who are we as a society to say that's okay when there's something that we know could probably make a difference in their life? What are we doing? This is
my body, my choice.
And you get to choose what you want to do, but you need to have the information. The information is what's going to set you to decide what you're going to do. But if you don't even have access to it, how can you make good decisions?
Yeah, my body, my choice. That's right.
Yeah.
I'm looking right at me. That's
My blunt, my body. My blunt, my
Yeah.
body.
Oh, I like that better. Okay. Oh, I should have lit this up, and you would have had the whole triangle here. You know. Did you if normally way at the end, and we'll get the first time. Lefty will like ask people the first experience with cannabis because
Yeah, how old were you?
most people have the experience, but we don't know yet. Were you just a non-consumer until you found it could help your own health, or did you? Go ahead, Lefty. It's not the end yet. We don't have a real time constraint.
You
Well,
could
I do.
ask her. I just want to know how old were you the first time you used cannabis?
I did. I tried it as a teenager. I think most teenagers did. This is going to take me to that conversation that we worry about our kids, but how many teenagers have been using cannabis for decades and they seem to be getting through life okay?
Yeah.
But it wasn't
25 plus
something-
years.
So I had to be in my 16-year age bracket.
Wow.
But it's not something that I knew anything about, didn't have any education, and I feared my father. So that was enough for me to not get caught, And so it wasn't until I got into the medical field and was learning about it that I learned as much as I did, but I still didn't consume. And then when I went to my
Was it a joint? Was it a joint, and was there a story behind it? Your first joint?
It was definitely a joint, and it was not anything to write home about. It was just with a group of friends, and quality of it I don't know. Being a first time, but I can tell you what my experience was like the first time using it and meeting my ECS as an adult sick. It was truly transforming.
You said you worked in oncology or were involved. When was that?
That was in the late 70s that I did that.
Okay, so there would have been experience back then with I would assume how it mitigated the effects of chemotherapy. That was like early on notice.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to work with one doctor from India that had a huge wealth of knowledge that he brought to the States with him.
Really?
And so there was a real education that I got, and I was confused because in college I wasn't learning any of this in any of my courses. So it was like I was very interested. But learning that it could help with pain and sleep was pretty much all that we knew. We didn't even really realize that, it helped with the nausea. We knew that. But beyond that, we didn't understand. But we didn't also know what people were getting, where they were getting it, those kind of things. But we did see benefit. And, working with anybody that has cancer and watching what they go through, if we can provide them with anything that makes their day a little bit better, we should be doing that. And I always say, if what we know about cancer today and what cannabis can do for it, if we could just focus on that one condition, I don't want to just focus on one, but if we could, and we could make the impact on that condition of what we believe is possible, would that not be truly amazing when we look at what 1 in 3 men in their lifetime will develop?
I see 3 men here.
1 in 3 women will develop cancer in their lifetime.
One of us 3 guys. You see 3 guys, and I hear 1 out of 3. Yeah, it actually makes it kind of real. One along those lines, the Coalition for Medical Marijuana, New Jersey, a 501c3 I co-founded with registered nurse Ken Walsky in 2003. One of our earliest gigs was at Freehold Raceway, a horse racing track, and it's a half mile, so it wasn't it still had quite a swath of inside the racetrack area. So they, when they weren't having actual races there, although there were simulcasting and there was like people in the building and all, it was the whole anti-cancer thing, Cancer Society put on, and it lasted a couple of days. So they were actually there overnight people there. You know, it was quite the thing. And it was great for us to be there because this is the people we wanted to talk to. And they really were good listeners, the individuals. And I felt so helpless for a lot of what I was hearing. I know how it would sound to them, and it was very hard to approach and get them to understand. We should have a good conversation. You might want to look into this. But then at the end, everybody had these little lanterns, little about this size, little that you would put a candle in, and somebody's name, and they put them all around the track, half-mile track, and they were about like this far apart. There was like thousands of them, and then everybody just took a lap or two, a slow walk around the track and looking at all that and drove it home. I mean, it's such, the proportions.
It's really sad if you walk into a cancer clinic today and see how many individuals are sitting in there with walkers and aging, and that they're towards the end of their life and they're struggling through this without the proper education on what could maybe make their life better. I know some people that have beat cancer are still cancer-free, we will say, without utilizing any form of treatment, just using cannabis. I know people that have incorporated it into their regular routine of using chemotherapy, radiation, and cannabis. And what have you got to lose? That's what I'm going to say.
Really, it's the risk benefit. I mean, it has to be an accurate assessment of that. And then beyond that, the part that is vilified, that it makes you feel good. That's really good when you're sick. People that feel better about how they're doing. I mean, just feel not uncomfortable. They do better, and that's what cannabis is like, kind of made for in effect. I mean, it's almost the perfect plant in that respect. I used to think, well, how to feel good or something like that. How would we know to use it? I mean, if this is God's gift to us or whatever,
Well, what's so wrong with feeling good? This is the thing I want to ask. We live in a society that it's like we should feel bad. I don't know. Don't we want everybody to feel good? I want you to feel the best that you can feel. And, I was talking to a young lady just this week with Connor's Foundation out of Maryland. And she was talking about using it with her son. And he was 14 years old, and she gave him too much THC, and she was beating herself up. And then she saw him laughing and enjoying himself. And then she was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And then she finally had to realize, I've made my son happy. I've made him laugh. How long has it been since I've heard him laugh?
Right.
Come on, folks. This is what we need. We need to be able to enjoy something and enjoy life. When you're seriously sick, whether it's your kids, whether it's yourself, whether it's your loved ones, whether it's your parents, no one wants to see them unhappy, not enjoying life. I can tell you, contemplating suicide is something I never thought I could do. But when you live in a chronic pain of 10 for decades, and they tell you there's nothing more they can do, you feel like, what else is there for me? I'm a burden to my family. I can't participate in anything. I can't get up and be the wife, the mother that I should be. Why am I here? And, I can't answer the question, what happens with the individuals that choose to go further than what I did, because we don't get the opportunity to talk to them. But I get the opportunity to talk to anyone today and say, there are choices that you have if you have correct information to know that this is not necessarily the life you have to live.
Mm-hmm.
Well said. Very well said.
Yeah. I know everything I did really towards the best end I could hope for the people that I could affect. I did because I was scared. I wasn't ever being noble. It was, Cheryl wasn't your prototypical MS patient. And I went to an MS caregiver support group one time, and I was there 20 minutes and I already knew, but I waited it out 2 hours. I didn't belong there. I had none of their problems. I had none. I was having a hard time with the actual MS itself, not the person. And I was hearing, oh, my husband refuses to let me cut up his meat for him because of it. And then he keeps making mistakes with the checking account. He refuses. I'm like, I don't belong here. I have none of that. And it was amazing to watch somebody who had never got high before, how it affected Cheryl. And her neurologist would say, Cheryl, I can always tell if you've had your green butter before you come, because sometimes when she didn't, it was because I couldn't afford it all the time, but he'd say that the reason he could tell as a neurologist had nothing to do with neurology. He's going, one, you start conversations. You don't just sit there and listen. Two, you look right at me. Three, you're smiling the whole time. He could see this difference in his patient that he loved because he knew where that went from there. So, the getting high becomes like the good part in that respect, if it doesn't detract from anything, but also especially in end of life care, where if opiates take over, you don't really have any quality of life with the people around you at the end. And I think that's what I hear all the time from people is finding out in time that just start having some smoke with it. And it doesn't alter the ultimate end of things. But everybody is always so thankful the quality time they had, where they had conversations that they felt close. And geez, it's the same thing that happens if all you're doing is getting high and you're sitting around. You're talking with people without any agenda and communing and understanding. And all that goes into your own self-repair. If it's true, well, 22 people who know that there's a lot of people praying for them have a 22% chance of a better recovery. Somewhere, I'm not going to question statistics, but right away it kind of became clear to me. It's because if you can believe that's helping you, it does. It's like getting you the same thing. Getting high is it giving you hope. And that hope allows you to heal better than being dejected the whole time. So, it is all about. And then to have the MS Society always be the other side of the coin, Cheryl, in the news, a lot of people would, want to talk about it in the 90s especially. And Dr. Abe Eastwood, who was like president of the MS Society, I don't know what that is. Dr. Reingold was the head of research on their mouthpiece, but it was interesting to read the counterpoint to what we were saying. And what he said was, marijuana doesn't make you feel better. It only makes you think you feel better.
Yeah.
This is a doctor and the head of the MS Society. I'm like, well, by definition, that's a good thing. If you say you feel better, Dr. Eastwood's going to tell you, it's because you've been smoking. You don't feel better. I don't. That just showed me the animal I was dealing with, the MS Society. And
I find that interesting because I reached out to the Complex Regional Pain Society because I wanted them. That's considered the suicide disease, by the way, if you haven't heard that, because it's considered the most intense pain that there is. It's like being electrical shocks running through your body, and they're nonstop, or that's the way it was for me. And I reached out to them to say we should have a conversation about medical cannabis and how it could be helping your patients. And I know they support it somewhat, but they didn't want that conversation. And it's like, we need to be having these conversations in these organizations, even the Parkinson's organizations, all of these organizations, we need to be having these conversations because patients and their families come there looking for support and answers. And there are, just because this seems on the fringe to some people, it may not to somebody else, if they don't have the education to even think about it. We need to be bringing this education forward so that people can make a choice. Why are we putting all of our beliefs and our trust in the medical community? It's like I handed the keys over to my doctors with all of my health and just said, you guide it. I'll just sit here and wait for you to fix it. Well, they couldn't fix it. And they told me they couldn't fix it. And then it's when I decided that, well, I'm not going to just sit by and let you destroy me. I took it on myself to figure this out. Did I do all the things, good diet, try to exercise, all the other things that you would consider? Yes, I did. They did not make the change. It was until I met my ECS. And I allowed myself to understand how it works for me and what medicines I need to guide that. And I probably consume less than most people would think to do what I've accomplished. So it doesn't always take high doses of anything to accomplish what you want.
Right.
But, that's the misconception that so many people have. Well, I'm so really sick, I'm just going to have to use a lot of it, maybe. And that's not necessarily true. It's all education. And we know that education is not valued today. And it needs to be, because this is what's going to change and make us a healthier, happier world.
Yeah, I'm looking at the three people I'm looking at right here. You all know what pain's about. I mean, you're all in a really upper tier, and I know what pain was like from catastrophic injury to my feet, but that was then. It's gotten better since then all the time, and I always felt sorry for people who it would get worse or stay the same, because I had that to hold on to, and that was fine with me. But that it's such an you don't have to wait for the results long. If you have pain, and we'll just say smoking, it goes away. It's not like you have to wait. If it's not gone by the time you finish coughing, if you cough or whatever, it's, where it's at. The results are plain. So that's easy to, I would think, know that's good, whether it's not too much if it got rid of more pain, if that's the main concern. But that for so many other things, sometimes I guess less can be more, like perhaps with spasticity. I know that I didn't hear about CBD till about 2000, or a little after that even. And, it doesn't get you high, but it gets rid of the spasticity. It's very important. It's just, it's been an education a lot that I kind of took upon myself too. But now there are a lot of people educating almost everybody here. Not me so much,
Well, I think everybody's educating that's studied this plant in any shape, form, fashion, because you learn something. If you allow yourself to really get to know the plant and understand it for your own self. I can remember sitting with the plant and really just allowing it to just engulf my body, is the way I put it. It engaged and it allowed my brain to be cleared, because you've got to realize, living in chronic pain of 10, you think pain. No matter what you do, you're constantly trying to find something to relieve that pain. And no matter how many things I poured myself into to try to distract myself, there's no turning that button off that's turned on. And it's just like, it's a constant loop. It just will not stop. It's like that scratch on the record that just keeps coming around, and it's just like it's there. But allowing myself to allow cannabis to go into my body and sit with it and allow my brain to be freed and be able to have thoughts that are beyond I'm in pain is such a freeing experience. And that was when I started to realize how much my body can speak to me and talk to me and allow me to understand what it needs. And allowing myself to just find my comfort in that is where I think a lot of people find themselves afraid, because when they get to that point, it's kind of like, oh, I'm too afraid of this. This is scary, because you have not felt this in so long or ever, maybe. And allowing yourself to feel that and get comfortable with that is really rewarding, I think.
Wow. This is I know what pain is on a level that I didn't have to maintain like that, and it's almost like getting triggered back to that pain that didn't last. There was about a first 4 or 5 days. I would pass out from the pain. It was so overriding that I couldn't do anything other than try not to verbalize. I was like, and then I would not be breathing, and I'd be breathe, you have to breathe, like, and then I'd hear myself say, why? So I won't pass out and miss all this. I wanted to pass out, knock me out, do anything to get rid of it. And then, all three of you know that pain on a level I'll never know.
My pain gives me anxiety. I get anxiety because I know it's going to get worse in October, November, December. So I get a very emotional, damaging pain. Like I'll get the whole Rolodex of emotions will go through my head, and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling this. No. I'll try to land on something that will not make me sad or depressed or like I don't land on that. I'll go through those Rolodex buttons and I'll keep going until I find something I can land, like anger. I'd rather be angry for a while. I'll be angry. I'll be pissed off. Yeah. I'll punch my other leg. I'll have sciatic pain so bad that I'll punch my other leg. It's called refractive pain. I spoke to my doctor about it. It's completely normal. So punching myself on the other leg will actually distract my pain and make it, different than the pain I'm used to. Because you want it to change. You want that pain to change. At least if it ain't going to get better, at least make it different. Instead of being electric, make it stabbing. Instead of stabbing, make it dull. Instead of dull, make it, change it. And that's where I'm at. And I'm sick of it. And I get frustrated. And I get emotional. So yes. Feel you.
See, my problem is that I have this debilitating chronic pain in my spine. It's similar to Lefty as far as arthritis and whatnot. I opted out to not get surgery, and I'm off of opiates because of cannabis, and obviously consuming cannabis concentrates has helped me a lot, tremendously, stay off of opiates. And to the point where it's just like, I go to sleep in pain and I wake up in pain. Like, that's just my life. Like, I lose sleep because of pain. If I don't take well over 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams per evening before I get into bed, I will not get more than 5 to 6 hours of sleep per night, because I'm tossing and turning because of all the herniated slip discs on top of it, the pinch disc on top of the nerve pain and neuropathy going through my arms and my legs on top of it. And it's just like, I just got to be constantly medicated, and that's literally my life now. And people don't understand, why do you got to smoke? You don't understand what nerve pain is like. Let me know when you do, and then I'll be more than happy to sit down and explain it to someone.
Right.
You seem to understand that. You, everyone here does. That's the thing.
Right. Well, and the thing, you cannot understand what you're going through if you haven't lived it. And the only best way I have to describe it is, I want you to think of the worst pain you've ever had in your life. And at the worst moment that it existed, and then say, okay, I'll do this for the rest of my life. I'll be okay with that.
That's why I felt
the only way analogy that I can put to that is just to say that, because it's hard to understand something that never stops. I can remember.
And I love being called a drug addict by most medical officials just because I smoke a lot of cannabis. I've been smoking 26 years, longer than most people have been in their medical profession by the time they're retiring, to say the least. So I know my body and I know what cannabis does for me, but most medical professionals are like, raised eyebrow. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not dying off of opiates and mixing it with muscle relaxers like most doctors want me to do to combat the pain and nerve issues that I have.
Well, and all of those pharmaceuticals that you go on could create other symptoms that you have to take another pharmaceutical to treat that. So they're compelling. So when you think about, I eliminated 25 prescriptions that prescribed by the doctors, and I replaced it with one natural plant.
Right.
So, we should be refunded all the money that we would put into paying for pharmaceuticals.
All my co-pays, all my medication filling,
So that we
refills.
our insurance should pay us back a percentage because they don't have to pay for pharmaceuticals for us. I think that there has to be some kind of mechanism that gives you a reward for not doing all those pharmaceuticals. But of course, the pharmaceutical companies don't want that because that's going to put them out of business. They want you to be on as many pharmaceuticals as possible. But we should be striving that people aren't on them. And, figuring out how to manage your pain is probably one of the most difficult things to do, and understanding which cannabinoid therapies you should be using, what terpenes you should be using, and the amount that you should be using to do that.
Do you know what terps work for you?
Yeah, I do know what ones are working for me for the most part. I wish we could get the same medicine all the time. This is one of the problems that we have in Arizona, is what I purchase 1 week, and I usually buy as large a quantity as I can buy at a time. By the time I go back, they don't have any of that anymore on the shelf. And so now I'm having to research and figure out what's the next thing that I'm going to do. This is what makes it so hard for us as patients to be able to use our medication and have consistency. So, I can't get CBD anymore in the dispensaries, CBD flower and THC combination, because they just say everybody wants THC. And I don't know that that's necessarily true. It's just that's what they're pushing to, because that's what the rec companies people want. And I have nothing against rec, because they're improving their health along the way if they're using it correctly too. They're engaging the same health system that you and I are engaging. So they should want to do it to the best for them. But that's an education we have to give. But understanding that we need access to the same medicine or the same cannabinoid therapies and terpenes on a regular basis is always hard, and we don't always have all that information available to us.
It's the first thing time I went to a dispensary as a patient. I found I really liked what I got, and I wanted that and something else the next time, but they didn't have it. I didn't know that was the custom, and it's like I can't imagine going to get a prescription and they say, well, we don't have that right now. Here's what we got.
Exactly.
I mean, that would be so unacceptable. And then even for the people that say, like, if I could just grow my own, not that anybody themselves needs to know how to do it. It just takes somebody hooked up that can help them, and people who grow love to help other people grow. It's not a competition, especially when it comes to helping a patient. But to have a system in place, it's too expensive for people. Insurance doesn't cover, and then to say, oh, I don't have that, and they can't guarantee you that they're going to have it. That seems like, I can't even wrap my head around stuff where the Kentucky Fried Chicken, well, limited time only, we have popcorn chicken or wings. And what do you mean limited time? There's an unlimited amount of chickens. You could have the whole. They run out of something, and how is that even possible? It's a marketing thing, I guess. You rotate it, and you get more from it not always being there. But that's just, and I have better luck not within the system finding people. Okay, this is working good for me, and be able to get it, or at least have a good chance. And Paco knows how I like that, because I've been complaining about that for a long time, that it's nice. Even you tell me I got a 50-50 chance of getting it the next time. all I got to do is have 2 or 3 things I like. And if I have a 50-50 chance on all of them, I'm coming home with something I like, you know? But I don't know. New Jersey's not the state to get ahead in that respect. Arizona, I don't really know much about that except what you've told me tonight on how things are going. Other than that.
And every state's different, and it's just crazy, if you ask me, where we are in this situation, because it shouldn't matter what state you're in. You should have access to quality medication for cannabis, and everybody should have that same access. But everybody has different rules. We follow the different rules in different states just so that we understand. I'm a coach, and so I kind of have to know if I'm going to be working with someone from a different state, what their laws are, what they have available. And so many of the recreational states have just gone to straight THC and high doses of it. Most people don't need that high dose. And the thing I've begun to realize, if there's a point that you can only consume so much, and your body will only take so much in. So I don't care how much you keep raising that level of THC in that plant, your body's not going to take care of all of it. It's going to get rejected. It's going to get rid of it. So, it's fine tuning what you need and how it helps you. And, whether it be flower, whether it be an edible, whether it be a dab, it doesn't matter what it is. You've got to find that piece that works for you. And every health condition is different, and every pain is different. The 2 gentlemen here are talking about serious back issues, and those are joint and bone issues. So we should be looking at the bone and how do we help to strengthen the bone or make the bone better, and how do we deal with that? But once you've got crushed vertebrae and stuff, how do you fix that? You don't. Those are things that are life living. They're continuing. It's like saying I'm going to improve my lungs. I'm not. I will improve them to a degree, but I'm not going to get back to 100% of using my lungs. That's just not going to happen. So, it's understanding these medical conditions and what we need to do to address them. And it's not the same for everyone, but back injuries are, I think, some of the hardest to deal with, because we're dealing with bone structures and the impact of what it's done to your body. And you can't just put anything in there and it's going to take care of that.
Yeah. So like with me, with my surgery, they wanted to do full reconstructive surgery. They wanted to change out every joint, every disc, every vertebrae, change the fusion. And there was a 75% chance that I would be paralyzed after the surgery because of the severity due to the nerves being damaged and hurt. The disc being dry rotted and causing nerve damage down my sciatica. So they were afraid that it was going to sever my nerves and spinal cord, causing me to become a quadriplegic. And it's like at 36, hearing that, I said, no way. I'm not taking that chance. I'd much rather keep smoking my cannabis, go on 4-mile hikes with my dog, literally, and be active as I am by just mitigating the pain with my cannabis use, my physical therapy, chiropractic care, and massage therapy every week. It's just the way instead of me sitting there taking that 75% chance that I may become a quadriplegic in a wheelchair, it's like that's just too much of a high risk for me at a young age. I'm sorry.
Right. I hear you.
No way.
Understandable. Yeah.
I'd much rather smoke and deal with waking up in pain and going to sleep in pain, knowing I'm still alive and I'm like not a burden on somebody at such a young age.
So do you use an array of things like CBD, THC, CBG, topicals, edibles? Do you use a complete array of things?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Yeah. I wish I had the answer for you.
No, it's just the way my life.
Things, but
I even use these, which are me and Lefty's all-time favorites. Transdermal cannabis patch.
Yeah.
This patch is on all over my body.
Very helpful.
I usually use topicals every day. I use CBD isolate capsules on top of it, well over 2,000 milligrams a day. And then on top, but this is the other thing that works immediate to the effects of what I need to deal with the nerve pain and the pinching of the disc immediately. And it's a certain type of strain. Literally, Gorilla Glue is the only one that works for me. So I'm strain specific. Some other strains do work well, like Gorilla GMO, Hash Burger. A lot more of the sedative-like strains do help me a lot with the pain because they deal with a lot more of the inflammation in the spine that I have, dealing with, because they settle a lot of the muscles. Because what I have is called ankylosing spondylitis.
Okay, I'm familiar with that.
So it's like a very, very aggressive form of arthritis that's more so of osteoarthritis and as well as joint. So it's osteo as far as the sense of the bone and joint. And it's degenerative as well as autoimmune. So yay for my body never wanting to heal itself and constantly getting worse. But it's just the way I got to deal with it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's life,
It's like a carnival of indications. Holy crap!
Yeah, and
I'm starting to feel guilty here, only because I'm in such lofty company, and while we were talking, I remembered how incredibly lucky I felt, and yet guilty after about 4 or 5 days, where I realized it's not as bad. I actually slept. Oh, okay. And I remembered waking up and going to sleep. And then I realized all the people that I do know where it's not going to be the case. If it's no worse than yesterday is a good day. Times I feel almost like a survivor's guilt in a plane crash or something. Like, I got to, and I don't think I could do what any of you have gone through. I don't know how. I mean, I know what it's like. And I was the one when they say, well, how do you feel on the pain chart? Oh, okay. See 6 on a 1 to 10. And they did have the smiley face and the uh-oh face, at 10. And I say, you see the face that you got for 6? Yeah. That's what I look like when I lose my car keys, So you need a much, much longer chart and much deeper dark colors for the faces. It was like to the point that 6 months later, I had to go to the same hospital for aftercare, and somebody not dressed in their nurse's garb, it was getting pushed out. Kathy was pushing me out, and said, "Were you in here a half year ago? You fell off a ladder." And I said, "Yeah, it's me." And she looked like she's going to cry. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. We couldn't control your pain." And it's not your fault. I'm going to control my pain when I leave this building, I mean, I got pictures of me having this nice cannabis flag, William Haney's flag of freedom, basically cannabis leaves instead of stars. And, and I had my external fixation device on one foot and flying that flag and, with my other foot holding it out and getting pictures. I was the guy that educated everybody that came in my room. If you're going to come in my room, you're going to hear about cannabis, medically speaking. And another thing I said before about crazy how all the states have their own laws. Normally, that should be a good thing. That so many states are trying different things, that the ones that aren't working compared to the ones that are working, we can see, and everything should start to blend in the right direction, but it's not. But to Lefty's credit, on July 10th, he's co-opted that as Patients Awareness Day, because it's 710 and date, and upside down 710 is oil, and oils for patients, yada yada. Just to have a national cannabis patient awareness day, because states that aren't up to par need to be forced to deal with states that are up to par and the differences that make that so. Because New Jersey is the outlier state without home grow. And I'm the one trying to say, listen, the burden of proof has to be switched here. It has to be up to the legislators to validate why we should stay this way and identify what we're not going through that they've saved us from that's happening in other states. We can, at first it was just California, but at least that was something. But now there's so many different ways of doing it. And that's kind of where we come in at the State House, and trying to do that to try to facilitate a better understanding between states, because somewhere there's a state better than New Jersey. Let's just say Massachusetts. We have a law that's not even going to get a hearing for mature and for immature plants. Massachusetts has a law that's in effect with 12 and 12. Okay, well, there are legislators there that are happy they're not New Jersey. They're happy they got done what they got done. They have counterpoints. They're their counterparts in New Jersey, whether it be a senator or the lower house. We need to force them into the same room together somehow, and that's kind of like something. It's a long range thing, and it's hard to do. But to that effect, I'm going to be trying to, in Massachusetts especially, see if I can develop a minor relationship with a legislator that would understand how good it would be for me to be in a committee meeting and saying, well, one, here's something I want to read to you. And this is somebody that now I have his contacts. I'd like you to contact him and talk about this further. He's waiting on you to do that, your counterpart in Massachusetts. If you don't, you're running from the information that's needed. We're going to make it. It's even that's not easy. Why is every step so hard? But
Well, I think
within the room here.
Yeah, I think for politicians, for us to make through, we are up against a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we don't have the money, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but we have other things. We don't need the money. See, if I can pick somebody's pocket of $5,000 because I don't have $5,000 to give him negotiating me not picking his pocket is the same as him getting it effectively, and the relativity.
True.
So, like, I don't mean that it cost Congressman Frank Pallone any money, but after Cheryl died, that I tested the Patriot Act by taking her memorial wheelchair with a sign on it, "Here lives Congressman Pallone. He lied while my wife died," and picketing his home at 1175 Ocean Avenue in Long Branch, New Jersey, right off the ocean. And I had a right to do it, not at night. I was going to get hauled away because people couldn't see what I was doing, but in the daytime they could. And I've been arrested 3 times on purpose, making a point. But basically, that actually got him to change his vote on the reason why I was there. I just wanted to abstain from voting on a resolution of the House in Congress, that resolution that stated marijuana is a dangerous and addictive drug and should not be legalized for use by any state. That was their resolution. This is how we think in Congress. My deal was just abstain. Don't vote yes on that. That's why I was at his house. And then the year later, when it came up, he voted against it. And he's never had a problem with me since. So now we're having a problem with our state Senate president, who's keeping the four mature bill from even being heard. It's never had informational hearing. It's going to be 4 years now, saying there's no interest in it. Well, there's no interest because they don't know what's in it. It's a circle jerk. Basically, I'm in the position myself here now of saying you might want to get in touch with Congressman Pallone. He'll take your call and tell you how this is going to pan out. It's sort of like there needs to be discussion. And as we've been talking tonight, the discussions have to happen. So kind of what Lefty and I have been involved in for over a decade now is opening that door. It was so easy with Cheryl in the wheelchair in front of me because it was kind of reclining and it's laid back. And, you could tell from her looking like this that, she opened doors all by herself. I had to get us there. But without her, we've had to be more resourceful for opening doors,
Well, and this is where patient stories become so important, and getting them out there to give them and talk about them.
I saw 3 testimonies here in a row. Lefty, go back to what you were saying about when you get this. You just gave yourself a real good patient testimonial here, what you were saying 15, 20 minutes ago, followed by Paco. And what you've been saying, Debbie, there was some of the most heartfelt testimonial going on here tonight. And Lefty did work on a Why Are We Still Waiting segment with, I think it was about 22 or 23, 24 or 5 people, why we're still waiting for home grow, you know. And so it's testimonials like that. But Lefty, I'm looking right at you while you're doing that. Maybe you don't know how good it was, but go back, watch what you said, look at yourself like a patient, not like you, and segment that out so it can be used, because it was freaking brilliant, just in its honesty and what you could see, you know. And I know you. I've seen you do this for how many years now, but that, you know what I mean? Lefty's really coming into his own, making points when he gets on a run. He's done it in a couple of town council meetings that have been very impressive, and that was one of those moments. Only it was us. You weren't talking to a town council. It was awesome, you know.
But you can harness that and to save that and take it with you, because that's what's going to move people is these testimonials, hearing these stories. If you're going in there and talking about it and you have not experienced it, it's really hard for them to understand. It's the passion that we can put into it and the voice that we can give it and say, this is what my life has been. I've learned to actually update my testimonial every year, because your health changes every year. It doesn't just change the first time. It continues to change.
Yeah, but also the more testimonials start to be, there's, you know, they can be up in video shorts. You know, people get this more into social media and network and all. And I'm hoping nature will take its course, and there's other disenfranchised patients that will see a testimonial like that and say, I'd like to do that. So this is another one of, like, Lefty doesn't have enough to do yet. You know, it's also one of these things that could grow into something that's really very necessary. But it's once patient sees that and they understand it and they feel that person's pain, you know. So with off of a video like this, you know, Lefty's able to take just things people say and do these quick jump takes that are almost seamless at times, because he's gotten pretty good at, even if the video jumps a little bit like that, the cadence is very, very good. The vocals, you know, you don't hear it in that. So this is all good.
New Jersey. I'm on the medical marijuana program for Crohn's disease. I only have about 3 inches of my large intestines left.
I got to go in 2 minutes.
Right through me, so I need massive amounts. I can't afford dispensary prices. I need home grow.
My name is Willie Hayes. I have a broken tibular and fibula in my left leg, which give me pain and arthritis. We need homegrown. I can't afford the cannabis from the dispensaries.
I'm Reverend Rhea Carroll. Several years ago, my daughter had a big surgery. She was in the hospital for 8 days. They gave her opioids, even though she didn't want it, but they wouldn't let her have her medical marijuana. She came home, and the next day, she started to smoke medical marijuana once again. She took long walks with me. She did great. It's from the medical marijuana, and I'm so grateful for that. We want homegrown medical marijuana so that we can partake. There's so many people that cannot afford it.
My name is Christina Wenner. I have a serious intestinal metaplasia, acid reflux disease, arthritis, extreme stress and anxiety. I need strain specific. Sometimes you may only have sativas. That does not work with anxiety or stress. Due to extreme stress and anxiety, I've had a stroke. We are fighting for home grow so we can treat our ailments the way we need to.
Hey, my name is Seth. I'm a medical cannabis patient here in New Jersey. When I was younger, I was hit by a bus and had knee surgeries and put on opiates for about 10 years. Recently, I got rear-ended on a motorcycle and got 5 herniated discs and torn my ACL. Still haven't used any opiates, and I'm going on just about 2 years without them. Homegrow would help me a lot because I cannot afford to go to the dispensary and pay the prices and get the strains I want.
My name is Wednesday Mayer. As I treat for PTSD, and I need strain-specific cannabis.
I'm Big Dave. I suffered from PTSD. Cannabis has helped my life for as long as I can remember. I haven't done a drug As long as I've had dreadlocks for 18 years, anyone and everyone should have the ability and the right to grow ganja.
I injured my back as an emergency medical technician. I have degenerated disc disease. I have several herniations and discs on discs. I'm in constant pain. I need cannabis oil. I need to make edibles. It costs so much money. I can't afford the medical marijuana that I need to live.
My name is Jake. I've been in, unfortunately, several motorcycle accidents now, and I suffer from chronic lower back pain, anxiety, and bipolar disorder as well. Medical marijuana home grow would help me be able to cultivate the specific strains I need, the ones that the MSOs and the growers out there just aren't growing yet. It'll help me take control of my condition.
My name is Marina, and I use medical cannabis. I use it for anxiety and for cancer. It's such a game changer for anxiety for me. I've had doctors in the past tell me, please smoke before you see me. Other states have homegrown. Why not New Jersey?
I am Janet Rose. I suffer from chronic pain, nerve damage, complex PTSD, a lot of pain issues, a lot of things that have gone on, a lot of trauma issues in my past. It's a lot of medications, a lot of doctors. They all led me right into the medical cannabis program, and I'm doing the best I've ever done. The state of New Jersey just wants to continue to profit off of it while they put their medical patients on the back burner. I honestly, as much as I love the legal market, I've worked in this legal market, I have a passion for this industry, it is not financially feasible for me to afford it inside the legal dispensaries at the moment. Homegrow would help me navigate that and provide myself with the medicine that I need in order to function on a daily basis at an affordable cost. If they're going to allow me to grow tomatoes in my backyard, there's no reason I shouldn't be able to buy a phenotype, take that phenotype home, and propagate that myself.
My name is Michelle Burns. I have multiple sclerosis for over 38 years. I need my marijuana every single day before I can get out of bed. The dispensary prices are outrageous, and I need an ounce a week for my condition. I can't afford an ounce a week.
My name's Mike Burry. I take it for anxiety. Really would just prefer it to be able to cultivate my own types and to keep the strains that I love alive, because I can't find them on the open market at all. Senator Nicholas Scartori wants medical patients to only be able to buy $65 eighths of corporate mids. That's the reason it's being held up, is one Senate president right now and his minions. Who it's ironic because wasn't he the one who started all this in the first place, and he rests on those laurels all the time? He says like, oh, you wouldn't even have, legal cannabis if it wasn't for me. I got news for him. We still don't have legal cannabis.
My name is Lynn, and I live in Cumberland County, New Jersey. I suffer from rheumatoid arthritis, and I spend a lot of money at the dispensary environment, and I would surely love to be able to grow my own marijuana in my own backyard that I pay taxes on. I mean, I'll still go to the dispensary here and there and give you the tax money, and I would sure love to just grow my own plants so I could do it my way.
My name is Katrina. I use it for PTSD, anxiety, depression. I have a lot of GI issues and stomach. I was unable to eat. It has helped me get off opiates and use more holistic solutions when it comes to pain management. Grow it from the ground instead of a factory or an industrial plant.
John Frank. I have been diagnosed with stage 2 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I have advanced Lyme disease, which affects my heart. I have sinus bradycardic heart rhythm. I also have problems with hypertension. I have problems with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. I have degenerative disc disease. I have my cervical fusion, C3, C4, C5, herniated discs in my lumbar, radiofrequency ablation, facet injections, and physical therapy. Countless holistic treatments. I could be growing the plants and creating my own medicine, helping me avoid having to take any kind of opiate ever again.
My name's Jahida. My condition with fibromyalgia for the chronic widespread pain, sciatica. I have L4, L5, S1, grade 2. I have PTSD. I'm in pain every day trying to manage how I medicate, and these dispensers are just too expensive. Homegrown needs to be approved for patients like us so that we can afford to live and still manage our pain.
My name is David Kirk. I'm a medical marijuana patient, which I use to treat PTSD, anxiety, and migraines. We were promised a homegrown option in our state so we can grow strain-specific medicine.
My name is Michael Vingileos, and I suffer from anxiety, PTSD,
depression, and use medical cannabis to combat opiate use disorder. I'm currently unable to afford my medicine as it is too expensive and the options are limited. Medical cannabis home grow would alleviate some of these issues and would allow me to grow the medicine that works best for me.
Hi, my name is Susan Charetto. I have had to go back on opioids because I can't afford the $62 for an eighth. I used medical marijuana to get off of opioids, and then when I ran out of money, had to go back on opioids because they're $20 a month. I also would be able to afford seeds if I could buy them. You can still make money off of people that you're not currently making money off of because we can't afford your product. It's absurd at this point that we don't have home grow. The only state that doesn't have home grow.
My name is Edward Grimes. I have degenerative disc disease. I have a fusion at L5S1, an artificial disc at L4, L5, stenosis, horrible sciatic pain, and every day I suffer in pain. I need medical cannabis home grow. I need fully extract cannabis oil. I need extracts, and I can't afford them.
Hi, I'm Teresa Chamberlain. I'm asking for the legalization of home grow. I am completely disabled with progressive illnesses. I cannot afford my medication. I am on Social Security disability. None of us can afford our medication. At least give us the option to try to grow it ourselves.
My name is Lorraine, and I'm in Gloucester County. I am a medical marijuana patient diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and depression. I want to know why we don't have homegrown yet. I can't afford to go to the dispensary. When you're on a limited income, you go to the dispensaries and you can spend more than half of your disability check, but you still have to live. I use my marijuana for making myself oil and edibles. So I would like to have a strain specific marijuana. I could only do that by doing homegrown.
My name is Wayne Barini. I live in New Jersey. I suffer from anxiety. I don't understand why in a state where cannabis is legal, we are not allowed to grow our own medicine. And I want to know, why are we still waiting for home grow?
What am I waiting for?
Why are we still waiting?
Why am I still waiting?
What am I still waiting for?
Why am I still waiting?
Why am I still waiting?
Why are we still waiting?
Why am I still waiting?
Why am I still waiting?
Why are we still waiting? Why am I still waiting for homegrown?
What are we waiting for?
Why am I still waiting?
And I want to know why I am still waiting.
I would like to know why we are still waiting for homegrown to be legalized.
Why am I still waiting?
Why am I still waiting?
Why in the world am I still waiting for home grow?
New Jersey. Why am I still waiting?
Why am I still waiting? Why is everybody still waiting?
Why are we still waiting?
Very nice.
Yeah, that's not any kind of studio effort. It's just there are people there that get to represent themselves. And I have to like really go. I shouldn't be here right now. I'm using a lot of domestic capital I shouldn't be using. I build up a certain amount, but boy, settled right in, that's just that isn't even the tip of the iceberg. That isn't.
Marina wants to know, where do we get the patches from, Paco?
Yeah, so I got these patches on a trip out of state. New Jersey does not make these because New Jersey does not know what medical patients need. They just like selling fancy Mylar 8s that rappers are smoking for $65. So unless it's hype, cool weed, it's not going to be sold in Jersey. But yeah, I got this out of state, brought it back with me, and brought a whole bunch back with me. I wish they were available here in Jersey, but.
Well, again, with a 30-year range on all this, if I could have just looked into the future and seen a little bit of this tonight 20 years ago, oh man, I'd be thrilled. Like we broke gravitational pull. We have standing, and that's pretty important. And I really do got to go. I don't know how you gonna wrap this up yet, Lefty, or are you gonna do
Thanks,
it?
Jim. Yeah, I'm going to do the list. If you'd like to stay with us, Debbie, I want to thank you anyway. Before you go, Debbie, let me ask you: do you have a website or some way people can contact you?
Yeah, you can contact me through effectivenewsletter.com or effectivecannabis.com, but effectivenewsletter.com is probably the best way to get a hold of me. And then you can sign up for the newsletter if you're interested.
I'm done.
You can also fill out our survey because we would really like to get testimonials that we could then give to you from anybody that's in New Jersey that you could use to put it to your.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
And this with very little additional work could even. That's an initial. Let's just do something rather than wait and try to set something up in studio. And how do we do it? Just let's get them together and do it. Because if you couldn't find a good bunch of testimonials, that would be the best ever then. Because until something else comes along, that's it. But we got to get that out there more too, Lefty.
Yeah,
people. I want patients to go. I'd like to tell my story too. So Debbie, if there's anybody that you come across in New Jersey, and if
we would love for everyone to tell their story because that's the information that we need is a collaborative, and then we can say X number of people are using it to treat this condition, X number of people are using it to treat this condition, and this is the outcome of their health. It's just 9 questions that you answer. We put it together in a beautiful blog. It's behind a wall because we want you to be able to use it on your websites and anything that you do, but it's given to you to use. These stories are impactful and needed to make change. And when we come together and have a bigger voice, because that's what I see is everybody's out here working on this, trying to do this, but we're not connected and doing it together. So, or say to make an impact. We need a bigger voice.
Well,
that's what I'd like to see us all work together.
Unity.
This could be contagious in a good way. I mean, if patients in Arizona say, look, that's a pretty cool bunch of testimonials. We could do something like that right in Arizona. So I'm hoping, maybe you being on the show here can take a little of that back and makes the show worth something just based on that, beyond all of the reasons people do this.
Well, and we're getting testimonials from, Europe and from different countries, and they're saying the same things.
And they have the same.
That's powerful that, it's not, everybody just thinks it's in the U.S. It's in Canada. It's everywhere. And everybody is making improvements in their health.
MS is MS all the world over. It's not like it's a different testimonial if it's in a different language.
Right, exactly.
So I got like less time than if I say that.
Have a good night, Jim.
I need to. I want to stay for the.
The roll call. Okay.
It's real quick at the end.
Let's
Podcast
just
we
do
got
the
used
list.
to do.
If you can stay, you can stay. I want to thank a few people first, though. I want to thank CMMNJ, Cannabis, UFCW, JacksonStorms.com, Smoking Monkey, Arlo Glass, SoperMachine.com, Mad Hatter Dispensary, and SativaCross.org. And we have a list here of all our friends and family that are not with us right now.
They died before they saw the end of the tunnel, the light, people that were involved in everything we're talking about and didn't live long enough to see how far we've gotten now, or there's never going to be an end. Okay. But they did not get to see that. And, if all they do is have their name mentioned at the end of the podcast, somehow it keeps them a little more with us. And we like to end on a low note, actually, recognizing pain and suffering and the people didn't make it, and therefore all the families. And then we do an ode to remembrance. It was written
we want everyone to feel like crap, basically, because we usually feel like crap reading this list, and we want you all to feel like crap because These are people that suffer. These are our friends and family.
Feel like crap with us for a minute at the end.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
why? It's so
Great way to
far.
end the show. Feel like
It's far
crap.
beyond us. It's far beyond all of us.
Well, this list begins with Cheryl Miller, Jim's late wife, who he pushed across the state and got into all kinds of trouble with the police.
Good trouble.
Good trouble. Great trouble. Amazing trouble. The best trouble ever. Inspired me to do what I'm doing. Sabina Rose was a 15-month-old baby. She died from a 25-hour seizure. Diane, Gracie, Cindy Mae, Marie, Jack, Joan, Randy, Polly, Bill, Chad, Jeremy, Colette, Matt, Troy, Russ, Roger, Jay, Ella, Hattie. Hattie was my grandma, and I used to fill up a vape bag and drive it down to her. And I'd be like, Grandma, we're going to test your breathing today, because she was in a lot of pain. I'm like, well, you test your breathing. And she would like, okay, she breathed it in, and she liked it. And I would do this all the time. And eventually she got to the point where she would ask me, where's my breathing bag? Where's my breathing test? Because she knew I was giving her something. It was helping her. But it was a nod and a wink kind of deal. Jackie, Anthony, Jake, Armando, Felicia, Lynn, Dan, Sean, Joyce, Lori, Frank, Brian, Flo, Carl, Thorne, Frank, Lorraine, Terry, Charlotte, Cher, Jaybird, Michael, Marley, Colette, Brendan, Red, Rico, Lulu, Becky, LaWanda, Chip, Paul, Lisa, Marcus, Gary, and Jeff. Before you go, I got one more question for you, and I want to break this up. I'm going to break the sadness up real quick. What is your favorite munchie food?
Oh, it has to be Cheetos.
Oh, Cheetos. Oh, that's the only thing I don't have at home. I got chips and I got Tostitos.
I got Weedos. No Cheetos, but I got mashed Weedos.
I could go for some Cheetos. Yes. Okay. That's a good one. I like it. Well, thank you so much, Debbie. I appreciate you spending all this time with us. It was very informative. This is one of our best podcasts ever. Really, it was amazing.
And it's very comforting to know there's people like you. I mean, I know, but it's so much fun where it's about informing people. It's like we need to inform. It's incumbent. Once you know it's there, you want to warn people. You know, it should be a most basic one of the best human instincts. You know, and thank you for being one of them people.
Well, thank you for doing what you do and for the service that you provide to your citizens in New Jersey. And this goes out to whomever tunes in. So it's not New Jersey. You're also educating beyond that. Mm-hmm. And so your voices are very important and needed in this conversation. So thank you for what you do.
You're welcome. You know, we do it all for different reasons, all to the same end. And I don't know, we're growing stronger. The opposition has to be growing weaker. I got to hope that. Just no more curveballs, left foot, right foot. And you never know who you help bring on board along the way, too. So,
well, this is one of the beautiful things about the cannabis community, if you ask me, is that I can find that we all have the same vision and commitment to this plant and to improving quality of health. And being able to share that, it doesn't matter where you come from, your status, none of that matters because health doesn't determine to affect you based on anything. Everybody has an issue with their health at some point in their life, and we need to be making access to them available through however means we need to. I hope you get home grow sooner than later, and that's something that's feasible because we do have a problem with people not being able to have access to medication.
Here. We got an ode to remembrance coming on. This is only going to do 2 stanzas or 1, Lefty.
1. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not
weary them, nor the
years condemn. At the going down of the sun, in the morning, we will remember them. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much for having me on. This was a great pleasure and honor.
It was.
Thank you.
Take it easy, Paco. Take it easy, Lefty.
Have a good night this time for real, Jim.
Good night, everybody. Love you.
Great.
Have a good night, Jim.